Everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Deadite Talk, where we go back and rewatch our favorite horror TV show, Ash vs. Evil Dead. We're getting very close to the end of season 1 right now, and it's been a huge blast doing this, and I thank you guys for all your support and all your thoughts that you've been sending over to me for each episode. It's really fun dissecting each episode and, you know, reviewing each scene, you know, picking things out, some camera shots and things, you know, just doing all this has been really fun. And then listening to the DVD commentary, because I've never listened to it before, and then just typing some notes up about that, you know, hearing some of the behind the scenes stuff is like really interesting for this TV show. And, you know, I bring that to the podcast as well, and hopefully you guys really enjoy that segment, because it's definitely the most fun part, you know, hearing all the behind the scenes stuff and how they create the TV show. And there's some interesting things in this episode, which we'll get into as well. Before we start the episode, though, I just want to say, please support the podcast. Obviously, hit that subscribe button to the channel. You can support the channel as well by becoming a member, or you can buy some merch, or you can leave a super thanks down below. Like I said, any little amount goes a long way on this channel. It helps me out massively to continue to do content. So I appreciate all your guys' support lately. You know, we just kind of getting back into things. You know, it's a bit, you know, I took like 2 months off, and, you know, trying to slowly build myself back into streaming and stuff. You know, getting back into that routine, it takes quite a while, honestly, when you've had such a long amount of time away from doing it all. And yeah, I mean, it's been really fun coming back and talking to everyone. I've really missed hanging out with everyone, but it's been really fun being back and being able to do stuff like this again. It's a lot of fun. So anyways, after all the plug-in and the sappy talk, let's jump straight into Ash vs. Evil Dead, episode 8, Ashes to Ashes. This aired on December 19th, 2015. Almost 9 years ago. Almost. Director Tony Tilsey. I want to say I'm saying their name right. This is a new director we haven't had on the show yet, so I was interested to see how they continued the feel of the entire TV show. Honestly, I think they did a good job in this one. It's written by MJ Bassett, as you guys know, worked on episode 2 and episode 3 of Ash vs. Evil Dead. You know, they did the Kelly's mom's house situation, all that stuff that was going on in episode 2, and then they did episode 3, which was Books from Beyond as well. They had some really cool shots, but they actually wrote this episode, and, you know, that's kind of cool that they can, you know, chop and change between being a director and a writer, which, you know, they did both for the Silent Hill 2 movie, whatever that was called, Silent Hill Revelations or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but they did write and direct that movie, so they definitely have a lot of experience working with horror, which is, you know, I think they do a really good job, and they really do. Developed for TV by Sam Raimi and Ivan Raimi, of course. It is guest starring Samara Weaving as Heather, who was in Babysitter, Bill and Ted, the most recent Bill and Ted movie, and Scream 6. Ido Drent, I want to say that's his name, as Brad, and Indiana Evans as Melissa. Thor, Love and Thunder, she was in as well. Which makes sense, because Samara Weaving and Indiana Evans, I believe, are Australian, whereas the guy, Ido Drent, was from New Zealand. So it makes sense, you know, they bring in New Zealand actors. Or it was the other way around. I think maybe Samara Weaving and Indiana Evans was New Zealand and that guy was Australian, but, you know, tomato, I guess. It makes sense they're in Thor, Love and Thunder, because that was directed by Taika Waititi. I don't know. I never know how to say his second name. But, you know, that was made in New Zealand, so yeah, that's probably why, you know, she was used in Thor: Love and Thunder as well. But, you know, Samara Weaving, a great actor. You know, she's in Babysitter, a good movie. Bill and Ted as well, and Scream 6, of course. So she's kind of making waves into the horror space. So she's a great actor, and, you know, seeing her in Ash vs. Evil Dead's really cool. There's some later scenes with her in future episodes that's pretty good. I think it's the next episode you get a good laugh at. But anyways, the synopsis for this episode is Ash attempts to bury the books to end the evil, but first he must contend with other, more physical things from his past. Fisher faces a horrific change in Ash. The episode starts with Ash arriving at the Nobi cabin on his lonesome and finds several dead birds lying around in the forest. When one of them revives as a deadite, Ash throws it into a tree and smashes it. He prepares for a fight and says the line, "Honey, I'm home." Just that, yeah. I mean, this is just a little quick opening scene. I thought it was funny when he throws the bird on the tree and just smashes it, and it just explodes into blood and guts. But, you know, amazing opening scene. The shot angles with the camera on the floor. And, you know, Ash picking up the bird, you know, looked absolutely incredible. You know, then the lighting behind the cabin and Ash when he's, you know, holstering his boomstick and stuff. I just think it looks really nice for an opening scene, and you know, it's just a little shot, but I really enjoyed it. He approaches the entrance and he remembers his talk with Linda while walking past her grave and steels himself. But before he enters, he turns around and sees Amanda. I made a joke here saying it must have been a cold day. She had some pretty hard nipples on that scene. It's funny how I just pick stuff out like that. I'm a depraved idiot. I'm a depraved idiot. She tells him she's split up from Pablo and Kelly to look for him, and Ash warns her to stay away from there. Stay away from here, sorry, because everything dies around here. It's just a rule: death, taxes, and more death, and all he knows is death. But she says, fuck the rules, and Ash gives into her helping him. They go inside. Ash opens up about the last time he was here, hoping to get laid, but instead ended up cutting his hand off. It was a fun weekend. The deer head falls to the floor after Ash shuts the door and triggering memories of Amanda killing Carson. Ash says that the cabin will do that to you. She is a cruel bitch. Amanda hears Carson's voice. Ash explains that during his trip, he had a vision about the book being buried here in the fruit cellar. Amanda tries to open it despite Ash warning her to stay away from it. Amanda says we need a crowbar. Ash tells her there's one probably in the tool shed and he should probably go there by himself, and she should not join him since that is where he cut his girlfriend's head in a vice. She did have a rockin' bod though, Ash says. Amanda stays to watch the book while Ash heads to the tool shed. The book falls to the floor and we now see Ash's hand in the walls growing an eyeball, and it's getting bigger. Such a great section, just walking into the cabin, seeing it all again for the first time since, you know, Evil Dead 2, I guess. I mean, we had... During Ash's visions, we've seen him with Eligos inside the cabin earlier, so it is definitely the same set because it's the same hallway, and you see Eligos kind of creeping out with the door. So you do see it earlier in the TV show, but this is the first time we really get to, you know, see the main section of the cabin, and it looks great. Honestly, it just gave me goosebumps seeing it again, and you know, having the little flashbacks to Evil Dead 1 in the fruit cellar trapdoor. I thought that was cool. The set design again is just fantastic. You know, the atmosphere with the lighting too just brings the scene together a lot. You know, just plus just some great dialogue exchanges between Jill and Bruce again. You know, some good chemistry building up there. And then, you know, the hand in the wall that's like growing the eyeball, it always freaks me out. But yeah, I love just seeing the cabin again, you know, using some of the old props as well that they managed to bring back from Evil Dead 2 is in there. And you know, they even have the little details of, you know, Ash's gunshots being in the wall and the floor when he was shooting his hand. So, you know, there's loads of details there of them recreating the cabin, which is very, very nice. And maybe a lot of people would look over, but I did appreciate all that design that went into that. And I guess that's, you know, every episode they've had these great scenes, and it's really brought together because of the prop department and the set design team, because they really work hard on the show, you can tell. Pablo and Kelly wander through the woods and realize they are going in a circle. They see 3 Australian tourists being lost as well, but they react with fear upon seeing guns. Pablo calms them by saying they're for evil bears. They mention that they've passed a cabin just before and are convinced to show the duo where it is. I actually like this little scene. You know, you see these guys and you just know they're fucked. You know, something bad's going to happen to them eventually. They're just sort of cannon fodder for the evil at this point. Pablo and Kelly forgetting they're actually carrying weapons as well. I thought that was like a nice little touch because, you know, they're not used to carrying weapons all the time, and you know, they're just like saying hello, being friendly to people, and they're reacting like, oh shit, you know, these guys have got weapons. But you know, Pablo and Kelly don't see it as a bad thing because they totally forget they're even carrying them. So I thought it was a nice little touch there, to add to the scene. In the workshed, Ash starts the generator and sees Linda's skull inside. The door closes behind him and he starts calling Amanda, who goes to the fruit cellar and finds the tape recorder. So she hears a noise near the fruit cellar. She sees the old tape recorder playing the old tape from, I suppose, Evil Dead 2, I guess, was probably the last time we were here. So I'm guessing it was from Evil Dead 2. It was all distorted, so you couldn't even make it out. Just a little note from this, you know, Ash hearing the voice of Linda as he's approaching the shed, I thought was, again, fantastic. You know, I think Bruce touches a little bit on this in the DVD commentary about what Sam Raimi says as well, where you're using music as well. So there was some good, you know, nice music when he was approaching the tool shed. You know, it was kind of like nightfall as well. You know, having the music in the background is a good way to fill in a lot of holes in the scene. Um, it's sort of like papers over the cracks, I guess, having the, if your scene isn't that great, it doesn't have a lot of dialogue or anything, but having the music there really, kind of covers it up in a way that it just works great. And yeah, the directing in the episode so far with this scene in particular definitely is making me enjoy it way more. And yeah, this director didn't really have anything on their credits, so nothing notable, but I think they do a really fantastic job on this episode. And hopefully they probably, I don't know if they're going to do the next 2 episodes, because obviously there's 2 more episodes after this, and so far we've had directors kind of doing like 2 each. So if they're going to be directing this next episode, because I know the next couple episodes are all set in the cabin more or less, so I wonder if he directs the next 3, and I hope so, because he does such a good job with that. But anyways, moving on. Okay, so we cut back to the group walking in the woods. One of the girls, Heather, suggests that she wants to spend a couple of nights with Pablo. Kelly intervenes and says actually Pablo has a girlfriend. So Heather replies saying, maybe I'll find a cute bear, because that's a shame. And Kelly says, I doubt it. They split up after they've showed Kelly and Pablo where the cabin is. Pablo hopes they don't end up dead. Ash starts hearing Linda's voice and turns around to see her living severed head in the vice that starts guilt tripping him for his affection for Amanda. I think they got a great actor to play Linda's head. She actually hasn't been in anything. Like, she's been in 4 things in total. Like, she's so believable, because the first time I actually watched this, I thought it was the original Linda's actor, and they just, CGI'd her face to look younger. Which we'll get into the DVD commentary later about what Bruce says about this. But yeah, I thought it was incredible that it was just an actor and that they hadn't really been in anything, and how spot on she looks to younger Linda from Evil Dead 2. Again, the score in the background with the music is just great in this scene as well. It really does it justice. At the cabin, Amanda hears a piano playing and sees a mouse walking along the keys. That was actually a rat. TV tropes. Very good with these scene by scenes here. She finds Professor Nobi's notes and reads about the Kandarian dagger being able to sear the flesh on the Necronomicon. But Ash spooks her and tells her that they need to leave and start over, beginning a new life together. They kiss, but then she sees he has both of his hands and freaks out. The new Ash tries to convince Amanda that he's going to give her everything she wants, but she is having none of it and runs away from him, starting a fight in the shed. Linda taunts Ash, the real Ash, about the situation and attacks by telekinetically. That's a hard word to say. Fuck. Trying to do a rewatch podcast and trying to read this, and telekinetically just sets me. It just sends me flying. So she telekinetically sending circular saw blades, firing them at Ash, and a bear trap at him. I thought the bear trap was really cool. I like the possessed bear trap snacking at him like a rabid dog. It was pretty cute. Amanda manages to chop Evil Ash's right hand off when they're fighting, and then chops it into bits as well on the counter. He pretends that he was possessed by the hand before attacking again and driving the cleaver into her shoulder. An invisible force then knocks her over, and she falls onto the deer antlers that pierce her and impale her. And poor Amanda, she finally got some solid foundation. She's, it's took us such a long time to get the character in a solid place in the story, and we've had her killed off. And she's been a weird one throughout the entire season, honestly. But I remember the first time of me watching this, I was kind of rooting for her to stay alive, to be with Ash, and, Ash having his little sort of romance side of things. It was kind of nice having Ash to have somebody for once. And then, by snap of the fingers, pretty much, she's gone. And yeah, it's, Amanda hasn't had a great story arc, and it took her 6 or 7 episodes to really get the character established with the ghost beaters and everything. And then she's killed off in the next episode. It's just kind of weird writing, to be honest. And I know they probably did it for like a shock factor, but I don't know. I just think there could have been more from the character, and possibly even going into season 2, we could have seen more of her, or even towards the end of this season. We still have 2 more episodes left, and yeah, I just think she was a bit wasted. I don't think she was written particularly very well throughout the entire season. But it is what it is, I guess. I think a lot of people would agree with me that it's probably better to not see much of this character anymore. I'm not taking anything away from the actor, because I think the actor who plays Amanda did a really, really good job. I think she's, she was one of my favorites in the TV show originally when I first watched it. But, rewatching it again, and just then you can start seeing all the cracks around this character and the way her story progressed through. I think it's because I'm watching it weekly now, whereas before I binge watched this a lot. And, the character kind of paced very well when you binge watch it, but when you're watching this weekly, you kind of like, oh, it's fucking character. They're not doing anything, and now I've got to wait a whole of a week to figure out if she's going to do anything in the next week. That's how it's different, and how I've kind of seen the character differently this time. And yeah, I mean, she was short-lived in the show, and it's a shame because I think she was a cool character a little bit, and just needs a little. She had some great scenes, especially in the first episode. We had her approaching the mansion with Carson, her police partner, and I just think that scene is one of the best scenes in season 1. I really do. I think it's a great scene. It's so Resident Evil mansion vibes, which I fucking love, and just having that set up at Ash vs Evil Dead, it was just such a great scene. And they had the flashlights, the way everything was going on in that mansion was great. And she kind of had another scene in this episode where she's slowly walking to the back of the cabin because she hears the piano playing. Again, it just gave me more Resident Evil vibes, and I just loved it. I thought it was just a great shot. And like I said, she does have some powerful scenes and some really nice horror ones, and I feel like they could have done more of that with this character, definitely. But yeah, it's a shame. No more Amanda. No more Amanda. The scene in the shed as well, with the chainsaw noises and, Linda's head opening the wound in the top of her head, like she was getting chainsawed again. I thought that was a really nice touch to the scene. They didn't have to do that. They could have just had her constantly badgering Ash. But, they went to the lengths of, hearing the chainsaw noise and then the head starts splitting open at the top. I thought, it was a really good addition to the scene there. And again, Bruce's performance in this episode is the best he's been all season. If I'm being totally honest, he's playing evil Ash again, like he did in Army of Darkness, I guess. I think Bruce does a really good job of playing two sides of Ash, and you really see it with evil Ash in this one. Again, he just does such a convincing job, and the scene with him and Amanda, it's a bit like a soap opera type of thing, I guess, a bad soap opera, but you do get a good laugh with Bruce and Amanda, and just the way Bruce acts, like you just know something's wrong, and that's not the real Ash doing that, because we see the hand grow, but we as the audience, if you haven't seen it before, you'd maybe start thinking it is Ash until you see the hand appear on her face. So I think it is a really good way that he played that character as well. Then he chops her with the meat cleaver, and then he says, "Now that's what I call a cleavage." That just had me fucking dead. It always does every time I see it. But yeah, it's a shame for Amanda and a character, but overall those scenes were fantastic, and yeah, it was a big section for the episode, and I really enjoyed it. The bear trap rips Ash's prosthetic hand off, leaving him with the same wound as evil Ash, and he finally smashes Linda's skull in with a crowbar and kicks the door out. Evil Ash taunts the dying Amanda as she bleeds to death, just as real Ash enters and comforts her as she passes away. It was kind of a brutal death when she's dying, to be honest. She's impaled on the antlers, which, again, I thought that was a cool touch to having her dying on that. Because it's sort of similar to how her partner died, so they kind of threw that back in there, which I thought was cool. The two Ashes finally meet face to face, and the evil one flees just as Pablo and Kelly get into the cabin and see the dead Amanda. Ash tries to explain that he's not the only Ash around here, and they think he's gone crazy. The two Ashes start fighting to the death. Good Ash, realizing they're the same and both old guys, goes for Ash's weak spots, his trick knee. Evil Ash responds with sore kidneys and softballs. The episode ends with them both choking each other out. Again, just a nice ending to the episode. The evil saying they knew who Amanda was as well. It was a nice little background detail, I guess, to more of the evil presence and like how they're sort of a hive mind. We've seen that in previous episodes as well. You know, when Ruby's interacting with the evil, even when Amanda has a little bit as well. I think in the first episode, when the little when the girl with the tattoo gets possessed, she says, "We know who you are" and stuff. And yeah, it kind of mixes with it a little bit, just showing that it's a hive mind. You know, watching the scene back where Ash and Amanda was still quite sad for me. Like I said earlier, I really thought, you know, it was going to be nice for Ash to have sort of a love interest, I guess, and you know, for him not to be alone so much. Yeah, I thought it was quite sad, and Bruce acted the part really well. You know, was a great choice to have her die on the antlers, like I said before. And you know, the fight scene with both Ashes was really well done too. How they're both identical with the wounds, and you know, they're missing the hand and they're cutting the cheek, so you know, you don't know which Ash is which, and yeah, you get a bit confused even during the fight scene, like which one's the real Ash. And yeah, it just kind of leaves us open to the next episode, really. You know, it ends on a good cliffhanger, like what the fuck's going to happen here? How is Kelly and Pablo going to tell them apart? But yeah, we'll get a good laugh from that. But that is the scene by scene for this episode. You know, not a lot happened, you know, plot wise. Story wise, there wasn't many scenes in this because everything was so kind of crammed together. But yeah, let's get into the highlights and lowlights. I don't want to be repeating myself in some of the good things, and like, I don't really have any bad things to pick out. But let's talk about the highlights and the lowlights of this episode. You know, I love the directing of this episode, like I've already said. You know, all the close-up shots inside the cabin, as well as some of the great fight choreography that they have, you know, with Amanda and Ash there. You know, the shots outside the cabin too were nice, with the lighting. Another great director being brought into the show. Bruce's acting, he was very busy in this episode. You know, he's showing how much he remembers playing, you know, two different Ashes as well. And he's also, you know, he makes it very believable. And, you know, just when he's in these certain sections, it's kind of like Bruce is reliving all of Evil Dead 2 again as well. Like the way his facial expressions are and stuff, I thought were very, very much in him saying like, "Oh shit, I'm back here," and he's kind of remembering everything. And yeah, it just plays off very nice to the camera. And you know, then the sad scene with Amanda, again, another great bit of acting from Bruce there. You know, it's definitely one of his best episodes so far for acting. The soundtrack was awesome in this episode as well. Suspenseful music, and the end credit music of the two of us together pieced together well with the whole episode of Ash and Amanda, with the lyrics, "The two of us together make the two of us fools. After saying goodbye to each other, here we are breaking every rule." Which again is touching on the opening scene of this episode, where Amanda says "fuck the rules," and they go in together basically. But yeah, I thought it was a nice little addition there. They're very clever with the songs on this. They're very clever. The writing on this episode as well is some of the best we've seen so far this season too as well. You know, not surprising it was MJ Bassett who previously directed the episodes, obviously. They have a lot of horror experience under their belt, and you know, hit it out with the park with this episode. The others, I quoted the others here, but you know, Kelly, Pablo, and the Australian group and stuff. I think their scenes fit in quite nicely in this episode as well. You know, they didn't have a lot, but it showed how they managed to get to the cabin and didn't feel pointless like some other episodes where the side characters' stories just didn't fit in. What I mean by that is, you know, previous episodes we had Ruby and Amanda just kind of all pieced in there, just thrown in there, no real direction there. But you know, at least with this episode, Kelly and Pablo had a purpose of like trying to find the cabin, and you know, you sort of see in their little story of how they got there. So at least it fit in, to be honest. And the good thing about that was, you know, in this episode, it felt less crowded because we've had Ash, Kelly, and Pablo, and then Amanda in the last episodes and stuff. And, you know, it's never really, it's all back and forth with all three of them or all four of them. And we don't really get to see the main character that much. I know we all want to see the main character. I'm not saying Pablo and Kelly are bad or anything like that, but you know, it is Ash versus Evil Dead. You know, this episode was great to be able to see the character breathe more, you know, the main character stand out more, breathe more, and just to have them shine a lot more, because we're not focused on Kelly and Pablo anymore because they're off doing their own thing. And we've only got Amanda in here, and Ash is kind of struggling with himself inside of the tool shed a lot. So, you know, it really was a great episode to bring out Ash a lot more, and I enjoyed that. I put down the lowlights. There really isn't any. There really isn't any in this episode. I don't. The only downside to me was probably that the the story didn't progress a lot. But, you know, we'll get into my final thoughts about it. But yeah, I mean, the lowlights was probably just that, about the overall seasonal plot didn't progress at all with this. So let's move on to the interesting things to note. This is the DVD commentary with Bruce, Dana, Ray, and Jill. Bruce said they created 2 sets for the cabin. One for outside with all trees and the logs wasn't actually shot in a forest. They actually created that in an indoors set. Which is insane because it looks outdoors. It looks like it's shot in a forest. It looks so real. Like it's incredible that is actually inside of a what was it that he called? Oh, I forget what it was called. It was like a EQIS quest something. But yeah, it was filmed indoors basically. I think he said it was really creepy shooting here because it wasn't the original cabin from the movies and it felt so identical inside of the cabin. I mean, yeah, obviously they're shooting in New Zealand, and where's the original cabin, like Michigan or whatever over here, so over in the States, sorry. So I'm guessing, yeah, you know, on the inside of the cabin they got everything correct. He says, you know, with the hallway and the rooms for the cabin and all the props. You know, he said they shot inside of the cabin, the inside of the cabin scene first. The clock is the original clock from the movies, and the few other props they dug up out of a warehouse. The chair, the laughing lamp from Evil Dead 2 as well. So they actually brought back some props from the old movies. Obviously they didn't keep everything, because who does keep stuff like that? But yeah, it was really cool to see the attention to detail for the cabin, and Bruce says it was very creepy seeing that. He continues to talk about the set, explaining that there's a reason why one side is plaster and the other is wood in the cabin. In the original cabin, they had to cut down some of the wall in order to shoot in there, so they created that with this new cabin as well, and even had all the bullet holes when Ash was shooting his hand in Evil Dead 2. Bruce says that MJ Bassett was the one who came up with the hand leading to the cabin and how it creates a second Ash once it gets there. Ray and Dana improvised their first scene in the forest together. The hiker actors were encouraged to use their original accents, their authentic accents, I guess you could say, to make the audience believe they are world travelers. Bruce was shocked with the woman playing Linda's head and how much she looked like Linda from all those years ago. He said it was disturbing. Yeah, I actually thought it was her, like just CGI'd, but it was a different actor, which is insane. And Bruce continues to talk about the cabin and its hallway and how everything hanging on the walls was spot on to Evil Dead 2. Jill says the rat that ran along the piano was so sweet and cute, even though she hates rats in real life. Bruce says that in the original Evil Deads, to get the rats to move away, they turn a can of compressed air upside down and spray it up its ass. He jokes it's insane no rats were harmed during making Evil Dead, though. Bruce asks Jill if it's proper or improper to talk about other actors' kissing abilities. She responds saying proper, and Bruce jokingly says, well, he enjoyed it. He wasn't being sarcastic either. He was saying he enjoyed it and that he probably could have done a few more takes with her. Bruce says the whole fight scene with Amanda was shot over a few days and that he told Jill to throw herself into the shelves rather than him because he didn't want to and was worried about a lawsuit despite her saying it's fine. And the line, now that's what I call a cleavage, wasn't in the script either. Bruce improvised that. That's actually quite... I didn't expect him to improvise that, but yeah, I mean, it's Bruce Campbell. He comes up with shit like that on the spot a lot. Bruce said it was fun doing the fight scene with 2 Ashes and that his stunt guy isn't allowed to hurt him, but he was allowed to hurt the stunt guy. Now, moving on to IMDb trivia. Honestly, the DVD commentary was interesting. There wasn't a lot, but it was definitely a lot more interesting than the last episode's DVD commentary, that's for sure. So we'll move on to IMDb trivia. This episode marks the 4th time that Ash's girlfriend Linda appears, this time played by Rebecca Farrell. She is the 4th actress to play the character, previously played by Betsy Baker, Denise Bixler, and Bridget Fonda. I didn't know that. I didn't realize she was played 4 times. That's interesting. Evil Ash returns in this episode by regenerating from Ash's severed hand, but this is not the first time this happens. In the comic series Army of Darkness, Ashes to Ashes from 2004, not to be confused with this episode's name, Evil Ash is reborn when Ash's severed hand bonds with a skeleton and a new Evil Ash is grown around the skeleton remains. I wonder if it was kind of like paying homage to that. Obviously with the episode called Ashes to Ashes, and then, you know, I wonder if they kind of pulled that from the comic a little bit. That's interesting if they did. The scene in the woods surrounding the cabin were actually shot indoors. They built the set in an equestrian center. There you go, equestrian. I know I was close on that. But yeah, that's all the interesting things to know. I thought there was some cool points there. And, you know, the entire episode is just paying homage to the original movies and does it in such a good way, you know. All right, let's move on to your thoughts now. There's only a couple of you guys that sent them in this week. I imagine some of you either got too busy or you forgot. That's totally fine, but let's read through what you guys have to say. So Andrew Adams, who's actually a writer, I had a question for you, Andrew. You know, when you're watching TV shows and stuff, because you're an author yourself, do you do you pay attention a lot to the story and like plot holes and things? I'm intrigued to know that. But Andrew says an excellent episode, but really the first of a 3-parter. I have a hard time picking each one out of the 3 as individual stories, but it was definitely great to see the cabin again. I remember watching this episode for the first time live on air and feeling such joy. Dude, I'm so jealous. I wish I was watching I wish I was an Evil Dead fan back then, and then watching the TV show as it was happening. It would fucking irritate me, like waiting every week and stuff. But yeah, I imagine like it was coming up to Christmas when this was airing, and I think probably the finale is like a week before Christmas. Although this is December 19th we're at, right? Isn't this when this aired? December 19th? Yeah, so I mean, yeah, so this is the last episode before Christmas, because then you'll be getting the next episode just after Christmas. So I think that would have been a really cool vibe to be around. Like, oh man, it's Christmas Day, and then a couple of days later, I mean, if you celebrate Christmas, of course, or whatever you celebrate, and then you just kind of moving on to a couple of days later, then you got the new episode of Ash vs. Evil Dead, unless they took a little break. But I thought that'd been a really cool time to be into Ash vs. Evil Dead, definitely. But Andrew continues to say he has no real complaints about this episode, 2.5 chainsaws. Yeah, like I said, it's not much you can really pick fault in this episode. You know, it is hard because the 3 episodes aren't really having the individual stories. I think with this episode it sort of does, because we're developing the cabin scenery a lot, and Amanda obviously dying at the end, so it does have a little bit of its own story, but it is a part 1 of a 3-parter as well. But yeah, I mean, 2.5 chainsaws is a great score to give it. I appreciate your thoughts, Andrew, and do let me know about the whole author thing that I asked you. Silver, episode 8, huh? Well, it's a great ride. It's kind of a tribute to the film and reveals that Ash is still 30 years later, still recovering from the trauma and suffering from some kind of PTSD. Yeah, I mean, like I said before, it was kind of like Ash was reliving these moments, and Bruce himself was, by stepping into the cabin and just kind of being creeped out of like, oh shit, like, he knows this isn't the real cabin, but it's kind of bringing back all the memories to him as well. So I think that works very well for Bruce, and being able to act those scenes out a lot better. Flashbacks of those couple of days spent in the cabin still haunt him, not surprising at all. Overnight, he lost everything and everyone, becoming one of the most tragic characters in fiction. He is a perfect example of the fact that everybody decides for themselves who they want to be. No events can change a person completely. Fuck you, Joker, and all the other broken characters who became psychopathic maniacs. Interesting note there. Yeah, I mean, you're right. You know, Ash, back in, I suppose, Evil Dead 2, not so much Evil Dead 1. Evil Dead 1, I've only ever watched that one once. It wasn't my favorite Evil Dead. I probably should watch it again. I've watched Evil Dead 2 countless times. You know, it's definitely my favorite. And because that's when Ash sort of becomes Ash. You know, he's really serious to begin with, and in Evil Dead 2, that's when you like with the dancing lamp, everything's like moving up and down, like everything's possessed in the cabin, and he's laughing his head off, like the iconic laughing scene in Evil Dead 2. You know, that's kind of when he snaps and becomes Bruce, and you're thinking like, oh shit, he's gonna go crazy now. And he kind of doesn't. He doesn't go crazy. That's sort of a way for him to just dial his seriousness back and being like, okay, now this is not reality, really. This isn't my reality now, and I've got to change. And he decides to become somebody who fights back against it, instead of somebody going crazy by seeing all of this. And maybe that's Sorry, I kind of got a bit cut off there. So with Ash, you know, just having all this PTSD now, and you know him, because he has the, yeah, he could have maybe chose to go a bit crazy, or you know, maybe he wouldn't have had a choice in that, but because he's kind of written to be the chosen one, maybe that's why he was more pushed into the way of being the guy to decide, right, I'm going to take down this evil rather than going crazy himself. So that might be why maybe he kind of didn't have a choice in the matter of him becoming who he was. But I know what you mean. Like, you know, if anybody else was kind of thrown in this situation, you'd think maybe they would turn crazy and, you know, go psychotic and stuff. But that didn't happen for Ash. And I think Ash kind of, with all the shit that he's seen, he hides that under his, I wouldn't say ego, but more of his comedy and the way he like acts with other people and stuff. I think that's like, he acts like a dumbass now, and I think it's a way for him to hide all the shit that he's seen, even though sometimes he will bring it out and remember what happened to him. It's just it's quite complex for the character and quite complicated, but it leaves you kind of thinking or having interpretations about him as well. Like, you know, is he really acting like this on purpose? Is he just being shallow? Is he just, you know, acting this way in terms to, you know, hide the fact that, you know, he's fucked up? You know, just loads of things that happen with the character, which I think is very interesting. Silver continues to say the line between Pablo and Kelly is kind of funny, and you can see how Kelly started to get jealous when Pablo became interested in someone else. Rip Amanda, someone tell me why she was in the show again. I have nothing to say, really, just a lot of questions without answers. I feel like Bruce and Sam or somebody who writes for Ash vs. Evil Dead needs to do a comic around the TV show and being like, explain a bit more about Amanda, please. Because yeah, like I said, she has one of the weirdest story arcs throughout the entire Ash vs. Evil Dead, even though she's like still one of the more favorite characters of mine because she has some cool scenes and stuff, and yeah, just not utilized very well, unfortunately. You know, the line between Pablo and Kelly, and you know, seeing how Kelly started to become jealous. I don't know if she was becoming jealous. I think she was. Now I've rewatched it because I know like nothing really happens with them two. It's more like Kelly sort of cock blocks Pablo, or you know, she's looking out for him because she doesn't want the girl to have a one night stand or use him for a one night like use Pablo basically. So she's kind of looking out for him like a big sister would, maybe, you know, just to protect him from being hurt from Samara Weaving's character. Linda took Ash's hand again, but this time it's Robo Hand. I guess this is her favorite thing to do. Of course, a signature move. Ash fighting himself is awesome in classic Evil Dead. Also shows how dangerous Ash would be if he became evil. I would have loved to have seen that. I mean, season 2 we kind of have that, but that's more of an act. But yeah, I would love to see that. Like, I know we have Army of Darkness where, you know, we have evil Ash, but what if Ash himself became evil? Like, it would have been a really cool story arc to do something like that for a whole season or something like that. But yeah, he would have the potential to become the best slasher in horror, pushing Jason and the rest. Potentially, yeah, he could. He would have a lot of potential turning it into a slasher character because he's finally been like pushed over the edge or something. Overall, episode 8 is just a lot of fan service and filler, and I'm okay with that. The weak spots of this episode is the script. There is none. Nothing here moves the story forward. It's just having fun with the characters. The forest, the house, the props, it all looks fantastic. Great atmosphere. Would definitely show this episode to anyone else who doesn't know about Evil Dead. Highlights is Ash's PTSD and Ash versus Evil Ash. 3 chainsaws, because this episode didn't last longer. Now, yeah, I agree. I did ask you. I did confirm with you in DMs. I was like, are you sure about 3 chainsaws? Because you said you didn't like a couple of things in this, but I understand, you know, this, although this doesn't drive the plot forward, this really brings out a lot for the next couple of episodes in setting up the scene. All right, we're around the cabin. What do the outdoors look like? What does the inside, the interior look like? What props have we got to work with here? you know, where like what could Ash potentially use as a weapon? What could Pablo use as a weapon? You know, like what's going to happen next? And you know, it's set up a couple of characters, or 3 characters in particular, with the hikers that we're probably going to see again, right? So yeah, it's a really good setup episode, and obviously then it has the big fall off point, or the big ending about Amanda dying. So it does have some of its own plot, but it's mainly there to serve as a, I don't know, serve as like a template, I guess, for the next couple of episodes. But it's not a bad, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's still a way better than the last episode, because the last episode didn't make any fucking sense at all. Oh, let's go to the militia, let's get some weapons, but then only get a couple of weapons to take to the cabin. Like, why the fuck did we have a whole episode of going to the militia camp to get weapons, and all we got was 2 weapons that Amanda could have easily just went into the police station and picked up 2 fucking weapons and walked out. It's just, yeah. The last episode I have a big issue with. So seeing this episode really transformed it and made it a lot better. But yeah, I appreciate your thoughts, Silver and Andrew. Like I said, if you guys let me down this week and didn't give me your thoughts, but it's fine. We soldier on. You're making my podcast a little bit shorter. So let's move on to my rating. I said it's a great episode. Not much to move the plot forward, but it held a big moment for Amanda dying. Was definitely used to throw the audience back to younger Ash days and older Ash, and you know how transitioned the character is now, being in this place 30 years later from before. I think it's a nice way to kind of develop a character really well from the movies as well. Like, how much different is he acting now being at this cabin? He's kind of more prepared to get some shit to go down, you know? And even then, shit goes down, and he's like, oh, for fuck's sake, like, it happened again. And he's probably regretting not staying with her throughout the entire situation. And, you know, it's just the atmosphere, again, the scenery, the music, the acting, the directing, everything was just all on point on this episode. It was definitely one of the best of the season. I'm not going to say the best so far, because I still think the Western Moose was a better episode, because it had a lot more going on. I love that episode. And I mean, you know, that's the season 1 of Ash vs. Evil Dead. The plot doesn't progress forward very quickly in some episodes, and some of them may be filler, but at least, you know, the filler episodes can find their way to bring something new to the TV show, or to establish something new. Or, you know, like with this episode, it was to establish Amanda dying, and the cabin scene, the Western Moose, was all about establishing the action shots, and again establishing Amanda's character a little bit more in her joining the Ghost Beaters. So, and Kelly's character got established a lot in that episode as well, even though the plot itself wasn't driven forward a lot. You know, you have these filler episodes like this to establish some other things. And let's just forget about the last episode. I don't want to talk about it. But anyways, my rating for this episode is 2.5 chainsaws as well. So we got 2.5 from Adam. We had three chainsaws from Silver, so that's a perfect score from Silver, and 2.5 from me out of 3 chainsaws. And I think that's worth it. I think just the not having a plot really sort of brought it down. Like, it didn't develop the plot a bit further. I think I just brought it down a little bit, but the acting, the music, everything just made me love this episode a lot more. But yeah, and let's move on to my favorite scene. So my favorite scene is probably the opening scene with Ash and Amanda entering the cabin. I love that, honestly. Just them stepping into the cabin for the first time, seeing the light and all the props on the wall and stuff. It's like just got such an eerie vibe to it, and you know, the set design is awesome. You know, just seeing the inside of the cabin again as well after all the mess that went down all them years ago, it's great. And you know, bringing the Evil Dead franchise back to it where it all began. You know, just bringing it back to its roots. Just in that one scene there of him stepping into the cabin, I just thought it was amazing. And yeah, I mean, it had some great scenes of this episode. There wasn't a lot, obviously, because it was all so condensed together. You know, we have the scene inside the shed when Ash is getting taunted by Linda's head, I thought was cool. And of course the fight scene with I don't know, I couldn't really pick between the two fight scenes which one was better. I do like Ash versus Ash, but Ash versus Amanda was good as well. And then you do get the funny one-liner of, now that's what I call a cleavage, which is probably the best quote of the episode, obviously. So now let's move on to Ash's blood splatter count. In this episode, 0. Again, Ash didn't get any blood on him apart from getting his hand chopped off, and he still didn't get any blood on him. It's incredible. His overall blood splatter count for the season is 4. Only 4 times still. The Deadite kill count so far is 19. In this episode, Ash kills Linda's head. I guess you could class that as a Deadite kill, right? I did. I think it is, anyway. But yeah, that's it for episode 8 of Ash vs. Evil Dead. The recap on Deadite Talk. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you leave me a like and leave me a comment and let me know your thoughts about the next episode. We're coming close to the end of season 1 already. I think this is going to be just in time for Halloween, so the finale should be around Halloween times. That'd be a fun vibe to have, I guess. Maybe I'll dress up. Who knows? Maybe I'll dress up for the finale or something. But yeah, I appreciate all you guys leaving your thoughts and let me know your opinions on this episode. Honestly, it was a great episode to talk about, and you know, just being back at the cabin just gave me goosebumps. But I enjoyed it. And yeah, just seeing everything. I honestly thought, like, when I was rewatching this, that the episode had more in it. I think it's because it's like part 1 of a 3-part. I actually thought this episode had more in it, especially at the end with Ash. But with the 2 Ashes, I thought a little bit more played out of that. But rewatching it again, it's like, oh shit, that's where it ends. I couldn't remember that, but yeah, it was still a great episode, and I'm looking forward to doing episode 9 next week. And if you want to get your thoughts in for episode 9, I encourage you to leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts for the next episode. I put a community post out every, Friday or Saturday on my channel as well. If you go to my main channel page, head to the community side of things. I will put my post on there, and you can click on there and comment on it. Or you can directly send me a Discord message. My Discord link is down below in the description. Let me know if it works. If it doesn't work, I'll create a new link. I'm pretty sure it should work though. But yeah, be sure to join the Discord and give me your opinions on the next episode. But if not, I will see you all next week for episode 9 of Ash vs. Evil Dead. For all of you guys that just listen while you're doing other things, I appreciate you listening and watching the podcast. It's been a thrill of a ride doing this episode. And we will be back next week for episode 9, which is called Bound in Flesh. So obviously this is going to be about the Necronomicon or something, right? Bound in Flesh. But yeah, I appreciate you guys listening and watching. Be sure to leave a like on the video to support the channel. Hit that subscribe button as well. And if you want to go that step further, you can buy some merch. You can become a member of the channel. It's very cheap. It's just a little cheap monthly subscription. You can do that, or you can leave a super thanks as well. It really, really helps me out and allows me to continue to do content on this channel. But thank you guys so much for watching. I've been Pixels, my awesome viewers. I catch you guys in the next one.